All right, we are live. It is a beautiful Friday afternoon here in Atlanta, right at noon East Coast time here. 75 degrees. I don't even know why I'm wearing the hoodie. I know I'm wearing the hoodie because I just like wearing Ram stuff. Anyway, I'm Brent Leary. You know what it is. It is small biz breakdown. We bamby around a bunch of what we think are interesting topics. We get the gang together, we throw it all around, we toss it around, we see what sticks, we see what, gets people irritated. But this person that usually joins me at this time is not an irritating person. He is Leland from Oregon. Hey, Leland.
Hey, it's good to hear that I'm not irritating. That's, you got that in the back of your head. It's like, am I bothering people?
You're
And
not.
I'm glad to be confirmed.
You're confirmed. And I can also say the same for Shashi in Washington. Hey, Shashi.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for that honor, Brent.
Yeah, you're not irritating. Leland or Shashi is not irritating. Now, kind of gets a little dicey here, but all right. Now, I usually save this one for last, but I feel bad about that every now and again. So I'll make him third. He is the cold one. He is the bold one. He's the one that is still older than me. John Cold Ice Lawson.
Wow, I was waiting for the setup. I'm like, here he goes. He's like, oh, wow.
And he's the most
I'm not last.
Irritating. No, I'm not going to say that. I take that back. I'm taking it back because I don't know. So there's not a lot of irritants on the show. Not really. Everybody's so good, so knowledgeable, so insightful, brings a lot of energy. And when I think of energy, I think of our final crew member for today, at least, coming all the way from New York, New Jersey, parts unknown around there. He is the celebrity CEO himself, Ramon Ray. What's going on, man?
I'm blessed and well. Good to be here. Good to see you, Shashi, Leland. I think it's new for me, John, your greenish background or lighting. That's very nice.
Yeah, we just changed it up today.
Nice.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you, Brent.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad.
It's something.
Are you trying to highlight something like, are there some awards or something or some books or something?
All kind of stuff back there.
Got some like trophies from third year, like third grade spelling bee or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I got my football trophies from Pee Wee.
He got his participation trophy all shined up.
I think it's St. Patrick's Day 2026 he celebrated.
There you go. There you go.
He's getting in on it early, apparently. All right, that's good.
Getting my Irish in.
Well, your last
it's
name
money.
is Lawson.
It's money. I'm into the money today.
It must be the money. What are you, Deion Sanders also? All right.
That's just it's money mode.
So I couldn't help but see, like, Leland does us the honor and say some time for us to put together a list of things for us to kind of go through. Usually I completely ignore it, but not this time. Not this time. I thought this was really interesting. Let me put up the list. I'm just putting up the list.
Leland, you're not annoying, but you are ignoring.
Hey, we need a little levity. It's Friday. We got to have some fun here. All right, so here's the list that Leland put together of like possible topics. Do you see anything about this topic that, I don't know, make a little bit of a pattern going on here?
Agents.
Lots of agents.
Yeah.
Salesforce, 75% of retailers say AI agents will be essential by 2026. Walmart introduces Gen AI powered assistant to support merchants. Zoom unveils major expansion of AI companion with agentic skills and custom agents. Adobe introduces AI agents to Experience Cloud for enhanced customer engagement. That's like the first 5. Now, is that just because Leland has AI agents on the brain, or?
So, I'll tell you why. What have we been talking about for the last 4 months? It's all been about AI. So when I pick the stuff, I go, okay, what is Brent likely to pick, and what has Brent talked about?
So he's putting it on me. He turned it back on me.
But we also don't want to be in a position where the tail is wagging the dog. So good job, Leland. But There's a lot more in the world. I mean, I like the last one there said President Trump is supporting small businesses. So, that was a good headline too. So
Where does that say
Where
that?
I was getting ready to say, I don't necessarily.
It's in his brain. It's in
it's
his
the
brain.
second to third. You see SBA announces same thing. President Trump supports small business, whatever. Take it where you
I
want to
see
take it.
SBA announces plan to cut workforce by 43%. Maybe I'll
You got to read between the lines, Brent. You got to read.
I got to get my eyes checked, apparently. All right. That was actually a good one. I enjoyed that. All right.
The absolute last one, though, the Treasury scrapping the reporting rules for small business owners, that does help small business owners because now they're not going to get fined.
Is that was that the one that they were like threatening small business? If you didn't do that, you got to pay a fine of $500 a day or something like that?
Yeah.
Total craziness.
That was crazy.
Total craziness. All right. So before we jump into some of that stuff, I thought, it might be interesting to circle or do something. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Around something that we discuss from time to time, which is consumer confidence. I don't know if you guys have seen the latest kind of headlines around this, but it ain't looking too good at the moment. Consumer confidence, 12-year low. I mean, was it just last month we were saying it wasn't all that bad? Like everybody was kind of feeling pretty good about stuff. Consumer confidence, 12-year low. Are you guys seeing or feeling any different about the economy personally? And then are you hearing anything from all those small business people that you talk to? Because it feels like that's a big drop from just last month.
My vote on this, I think for sure, and again, most of us only know what we read in the headlines, but I think the tariffs, we got to say that's having an emotional impact. It's driving the news of the day. And I'm just repeating again what we all know, the uncertainty in the market. I think these are real things. I'm not at that big level, $1 billion Amazon level, but when you hear it over and over and over in tariffs, and you hear, even how our allies, like Japan's like, wasn't it today or a few days ago? What do we do? Like, why are you coming after us? You can't get worse than targeting Japan and Canada. So yeah, I think there's something there.
Didn't we, in a couple of shows back, we discussed how the 80% of all the expenses are coming from 10% of the people. So in my opinion, even as we turned into January of 2025, people were still feeling the expenses going up, inflation, gas was up, but the top part of the economy was still spending. And then one fine day, two things happened. One is the stock market crashed. So suddenly, like all the people who were feeling quite rich suddenly said like, hey, we can't afford to go on luxury vacations anymore. And they stopped spending in restaurants and things like that, right? The second thing is because of the number of people that are getting laid off, especially in the federal government, I'm hearing people have canceled orders for new cars. Home mortgages are actually going down. Restaurants are seeing some impact of that, even though when we thought when people came back to the office, at least center city restaurants would be doing better, but they're not. So it's a strange time, in my opinion.
I think that, and Ramon talked about tariffs, and I think that tariffs can be a little bit of an issue. But from what I've seen, about 15% of our GDP is dependent on goods outside of the United States. And so you got 85%, which is all stuff grown in the U.S., made in the U.S., processed in the U.S. And so, yeah, we're going to probably see some increases in cars, smartphones, electronics, stuff that is made in Taiwan, China, and brought over. But stuff like homegrown beef, eggs have actually gone down in price, milk, the essentials shouldn't be. There'll probably be a little bit of an effect because, well, they've got to buy phones and they got to buy computers and they got to buy all this stuff, and it will increase a little bit. But I think that for the essentials, we're not going to see necessarily that big of an increase. But we're probably seeing a little bit of a panic because, well, I mean, that's what the news does. They kind of throw people into a panic because then they're glued to the TV and then they get to sell more ads.
Really? Wait, hold on. The news does that
Yeah.
because they're covering press conferences? Is that what you mean? I mean, stop it. Let's stop that. Don't say that. Don't say that. The news is not spinning up these stories. These stories are spinning straight from the White House.
Nope.
Okay. Stop right away.
John.
Stop right away. Hold on. Let me finish. You're all talk. I let everybody
Well, you
talk.
finish. Go ahead, John.
And I'm
Go
going
ahead.
to talk.
Yes.
Okay. Here's the deal. Today, the people are feeling the way they feel. Just like Sashi said, he said what, like at a flip of a button, something switched. What switched was the daggone, tariffs. That day, that single day, the tariffs went. He's like, I'm doing it against, Canada, and the stock market drops. Ain't nobody report nothing, but the stock market dropped after he made his statement. The press hasn't got nothing to do with that. I mean, you can point fingers, but in reality, what's happening is the administration is making changes. Whether you like the administration or don't like the administration, you have to understand that shit will roll downhill. And that's what's happening. The top of the hill is not the press. Stop it. The top of the hill is what comes out from Washington, D.C. That's what's impacting the way our economy is moving, not the press. Stop.
May I help John a bit? Brent, do you mind if I just quick jump in?
Feel free.
Yeah. So John, listen, you're a good person. Nothing wrong with you. You're honest. You have years of experience.
Whatever. Don't blow smoke. Just go.
Bottom line here, John, what I'm trying to say, I agree with what you're saying, John, but I do think sometimes, and you're right what you're trying to say, what you're saying. You're right. I agree. You can't make up the news out of the White House and tariffs. I already said that. I started with that. But just put the news part, there are slants in how people say things. You can say,
okay, so it fans the flag.
I think it was my turn to think. Yeah. Mangy dog with fleas bit poor little boy. Or you can say, dog, vicious big dog bit bad man. So the facts are the same, but the slant will impact still how people feel. I just want to, that's a fact.
I'll give you the fanning the flames. Absolutely.
That's all
I mean, there's smoke and fire way before they start.
I agree.
And that's what's really happening in the economy right this minute. But you know what? I feel like this, man. I hate to say I told you so, but that part. We are here where we're supposed to be.
Let me just point out one or two things here.
Go for it.
It does seem like a couple of months ago you were actually all in agreement that there wasn't a lot to see here.
No, I was in agreement that my business was good. And my business is going to be even better the more this goes.
Okay, let me rephrase. Yeah. Let me rephrase. It felt like you guys were at least saying, you know what? We need to give them a chance. We need to see what happens before we make any determinations. So we're now, I've basically been checking on these numbers like every month and kind of getting your take on it. Has anything changed your opinion from like January to where we are now? So yes, no, or other.
I'm still hoping for the best. From me, politically speaking, economically speaking, I want to hope for the best and believe it. But sometimes I can be a bit Pollyanna. Fairness to myself, I can be sometimes too hopeful.
Shashi?
A lot has changed, especially the stock market was still quite good. I mean, people will stop spending. I think about 56%, if I remember, of Americans have money in the stock market. They're probably
56%. Really?
I think
that high. Wow, that's pretty high. I didn't realize that.
Well, if you
So
compare the mutual funds and pensions and 401s, maybe, you know,
401ks.
yeah,
Yeah, but a lot of the younger folks don't even have no damn 401k. So
But there's more older folks than younger
yeah,
folks.
y'all old farts got all the money.
I mean, for the younger folks, I think there is a automatic 401k that
Yeah.
most companies have implemented, right? But that worries people.
Wait a minute. I just want to make sure I understand, because what I usually hear is like the younger generations who would love a job with benefits and time off and 401ks. They can't find those jobs, so they aren't participating
I
at the
think you
level
mean
that we were.
pensions. You
No,
mean pensions.
oh, I'm not talking about pensions. I'm talking about 401ks. I'm talking about people who would love to find a job that, like, you know, when I got my first job out of college, I got benefits, I got time off, I got health insurance, I got the ability to match 3% of my income. The company would match that and put it in the 401k. I haven't heard a lot of that going on lately. Have you?
I think there's a change in the way people perceive jobs. I think just after the pandemic, people said like, "Hey, we want to work in our own time and do that." I think all that has changed. I I keep hearing about people preferring to join companies
Yeah, I hear
because
that.
they have a steady stream of income.
That's what I
And
hear. But I also hear they aren't able to find those jobs. Those are the ones they want, but they're not able to find them. So they're doing the gig economy stuff. They don't necessarily all the people doing gig economy. There's a lot of people that do want to do that because it's flexible, and it's like sometimes it's I talk to them. It's, oh, this is a part time gig for me, you know, so they're making extra money. But then there's a lot of young folks who are doing it full time, and are like, shit, I wish I could find a job with Benny's. I don't get any paid time off. I have to pay my own health insurance. There's a lot of benefits to the jobs that we used to be able to get back in the day that I don't think they're as plentiful as they were back then. That's what I've been hearing. All right,
The
Leland,
stability of them is sure not there, Brent. Like the stability for sure. Like, hey, you're hired and you get a golden Rolex. Though that's way over. Yeah. So
Leland, what do you think? Have you changed anything from the beginning of the year to this year in terms of your perception of the economy and all that kind of stuff?
I'm hopeful. I know that there are going to be a lot of short-term kind of issues when it comes to tariffs and stuff like that. But we're seeing companies like Apple saying, hey, we'll invest $500 billion, and a bunch of other countries. And I think that the total number is up to like $3 trillion from all of these companies who are like, well, we know that we're going to get tariffed to hell and back. So we're going to invest in the US. We're going to build manufacturing facilities in the US, which will provide jobs, which will provide opportunities for small businesses, because then they get to go into these communities that have been invested in and be able to service these new employees and be able to make money off of them. And so I think that, yes, we're going to see some short-term falls, but ultimately in the end, see some long-term gains when we start seeing manufacturing come back. You know, yeah, we got tariffs on Canada when it comes to like wood. Well, let's start cutting down trees and clearing some, not clear cutting, but doing some proper forest management that involves cutting down some trees and processing wood here locally. And while, yes, we have consumer confidence in the economy going down, but I've seen other reports that says that the confidence in the direction that the U.S. government, the federal government, is going in is at an all-time high, and it's numbers that haven't been seen since 2004. So,
Really?
yeah, we're I can pull it up. I saw it like a couple of weeks ago, but it's numbers that have not been seen for 20 years. So
one thing to consider, right? Like American goods have always been the best quality until recently. I have a comb in my house that is at least 40 years old that somebody from the US brought to India and gave it to me as a gift. It's still there, it's strong, it's not broken. Two things have happened because of globalization. Number one is the labor cost of American made goods is always going to be high. Two things will happen. In order to match the goods coming from outside the US, they will have to reduce on profitability because there's no way they're going to reduce on labor cost, right? Now, when profitability decreases for companies, they're probably going to either stop making these things or find a different product line to do. So I think it's going to be a moving target for the next 2 to 3 years because of all these circumstances where, yes, everybody will prefer to buy it as long as it doesn't hurt their pocketbook. That's what I think.
That's interesting. So, Leland, I think you said in the long term, what you see manufacturing coming back, it's going to take a while. How long do you think that'll take? And do you think the American public will be able to wait that long?
I do think that, I mean, building factories, chip factories, whatever in the heck Apple has planned, it's going to take years to be able to make these kind of companies, especially with U.S. regulations when it comes to building anything. So it's going to take a while before all of a sudden we're going to see cheaper chips or cheaper cars. But there are going to be, like with cars, yeah, your BMW is going to be more expensive because it's going to be imported, but stuff that is built in the US is actually going to be cheaper. So if you get a Ford or a Dodge that is actually manufactured here and not in Mexico and brought over, then people are going to still flock to those. It's going to probably be harder to actually buy those kinds of cars, but there are going to still be alternatives. And again, I don't see it necessarily for your fruits, your vegetables, your meats, your grains that are made and processed here, because they're not going to be hit with the tariffs as hard as necessarily maple syrup from Canada. But, you know, when it comes to electronics, which are not necessarily essentials, you know, you could hold off a year on getting another iPhone. So hopefully they could hold off for a couple of years before stuff starts getting manufactured here.
Do you know about 55% of all fruits and vegetables are actually imported?
From where? Do you know roughly where? Or?
I mean, look, man, we don't grow very much here. We don't grow very much here at all. So here's, I'll just look it up. Perplexity, right? Nearly 100% of bananas are imported. 50% of grapes are imported. 70% of avocados, of course, you know. 40% of citrus fruit. And major sources are number 1, Mexico. Number 2, Canada.
So everything is getting tariffed, right?
Chile, Peru, and Guatemala. I mean, Americans, here's the part that really affects, I think, me more than anything, is the ignorance of how we don't know how things work, and we make assumptions based on, you know, never doing any deeper research, and we listen, but it's just the things, you know, 1 + 1 is not making 2. It's about to seriously, when you start slapping tariffs, other people slap tariffs on your stuff, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. And
you just described the last couple of weeks.
Right. And ultimately, the consumer is going to pay. That's ultimately who's going to pay. So I think the thought of us not feeling it is, man, it's a real Pollyanna. We're going to feel it. I don't know how bad it's going to be. It might be great also. I don't know. But don't think that America can feed itself. It can't.
It can.
It can't.
Well, here's the problem when it comes to farming. I live in a farming community. I've done FFA. I have tons of friends that are farmers. They are regulated to hell and back.
To make one crop.
To make, for instance, I got friends who make mint. They are told by the government, you could only sell this much mint. And it is not something that is, it's done by lottery. I actually made the site for Western Washington's mint growing lottery system. And they will just sit there and say, okay, this farmer, you get roll of the dice, this much to sell to these companies. And mint prices have not increased in decades. And so even though inflation has gone up and they are regulated to say you can only do this much, they can't sell more. And so it becomes harder to become profitable. They have to diversify the crops that they grow. They've actually started going into organic crops because that's something that they can make a little bit more money off of because of the organic label that they could slap on it. But same thing with cherries. The farmers grew 1 point too many cherries, and the government goes, destroy them. Just get rid of them. Destroy the cherries. And so they spent all this time, money, effort to grow these cherries, and the government came in and said you can't sell them because you can only sell so many cherries. So I would love to say regulations like those cut back and say, hey, sell them at a price. Maybe we could get cherries for cheaper.
So we need less regulation, you're saying, in farming, and then we could see the farming actually, we could grow enough to feed ourselves.
Yeah.
It almost sounds though. It almost sounds like somebody's trying to manipulate the market in terms to keep certain crop prices at a certain level, even though there's plentiful amounts of this stuff, and if you put it all out there, that would drive the prices down. So it's almost sort of like somebody's trying to manipulate everything. I'm saying someone. I don't think there's just one magical, person.
Put the tinfoil hat on.
Yeah, but it feels like there's a lot of manipulation of the market going on that is keeping certain farmers from selling as much as they can actually produce to support this level of price or something like that. I don't know. We got a lot deeper than I thought. Let's say hello to Amber first of all. Amber, you didn't miss us. We missed you. And she also says, "Oh my gosh, our soil and our American farming is trash." Wow, the government doesn't like Americans. That's an interesting.
That's a stretch.
I want to add something to what Leland said and what John said. Maybe I already added it, but some other thoughts. We are a capitalist country, right? Which means that we will make money however we can, as long as it is legal. It doesn't have to be ethical, right? Now, all the crops that John said are totally from outside because it's much cheaper for Mexico and Latin America to send those over. And these are American companies that are importing them, like Dole and all of those companies.
And the consumers like those prices.
And the consumers like those exactly, and the companies make profit. Yeah. But then the farmers also think about what is the crop that I'm going to get a very good market price in the world. It's soybeans. Probably I've heard because of the tariffs that China is putting on American farmers for soybeans. Soybean is a huge crop in the US. And the only reason farmers are making it is because producing it is because they can export it. Probably corn could also be another product. I mean, like everything that has sugar is probably made from corn. So the difference that we all will see in the market, yes, we can start going to local farmers markets and things like that, but they're not cheap. I mean, we try to go as much to the local farmers market. But producing things in that volume, there's definitely going to be a shortage. I've been through this when I went to the Soviet Union and came back from Russia. Really? When the market turbulence happens like this, you literally go to stores and buy whatever is available, then going and choosing what you can. Today, we have the luxury of like 10 different kinds of banana brands. I hope that situation doesn't come to that because of the timing of all of these things happening.
Yeah. Take a kind of a step back. I think, generally speaking, if you look at all the world's economies, everybody says that the U.S. economy is the envy of the world, right? I mean, that's what you hear. So if that's the case, I mean, how much better can we get by trying to dominate all the other economies, because this world is kind of small and technology has made it smaller. So we're as interconnected as we've ever been. So how much more can we try to take and be number one at the expense of the world? It feels to me like we ought to feel pretty good about having the best economy, and not necessarily trying to get absolutely everything at the expense of relationships with our so quote unquote friends. I mean, well, it wasn't that long ago. I recall like Canada was a buddy of ours, and Mexico was kind of a buddy of ours, and now we're actually going at our buddies to nickel and dime them as much as we can. That doesn't feel like a winning proposition, even if it maybe gets us a few more shekels overall. I don't know what you guys think of that.
Clearly, listen, trying our best to put politics aside, John, is that President Trump clearly has a fixation, an idea for tariffs. Politics aside, let's put that aside. That's one thing
he's been talking about that for before he was the president.
Right. I'm saying that's one thing that quote unquote is apolitical. It's not moral or flat. It's something. But he believes that that's going to help America. I don't totally understand it. So I think that's something that he's betting on. That's an apolitical thing of tariffs. He believes that it'll reset America economy, bring it back. We won't know. And to the point of Leland, which you made, again, I think these things, right? Like Apple putting billions in, it's not like they can make a factory today and it's humming tomorrow. This could be done when Marco Rubio's grandkids are in kindergarten. I mean, this doesn't happen overnight. So anyways,
the factory will be up in 2026.
Yeah.
No, it will. I mean, it's
2026, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't use that fast. Okay, in that case, we'll see a difference in. But in that case, I'm wrong on that. But my point being is that tariffs is the thing that I think he's betting on. And if his bet pays off, I think we'll see in the years, months, whatever the time is, that we see a resurgence. But if his bet is wrong, yeah, I'm going to, Leland, here's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of my townhouse. I'm going to move to Portland or wherever you live, Portland or wherever farm country you live. I'm going to live in your guest house and work in the fields.
Damn.
One thing I'd like to do is separate the chips factory, because I think the chips factory is a totally different one. We want not to depend so much on other countries for chips, especially Taiwan having big brother China right next to it, right? So that's why that manufacturing is coming back here. But there's one thing that...
Wait, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Was this already in the works?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of it was, right?
Okay.
Because of the shortages that we saw during the pandemic. We said like, hey, let's depend on...
Yeah, that was an eye-opener. Yeah. The whole supply chain cracked.
Yep. But the last 20 years, there's one category of people that most of America has forgotten. Is people who used to have the jobs of American produced goods that the globalization changed, right? When factories moved, when banana production moved to Mexico or wherever, the people who were actually doing it here, there was nobody to say like, hey guys, choose a different profession. And most of them did not want to. I mean, they've been working in factories for like 20, 30 years. That's the part I think, in fact, till recently, most of these places didn't even have good internet connections. So what we're seeing now is there's a lot of anger in all of these places. There's a lot of hope now that, if there are tariffs and we restart all our factories again, like Leland said, there is a little bit of hope. But I think even if factories are restarted, there's going to be automation. Today, we promised not to talk about AI, but robots are going to take over a lot of these manufacturing jobs and probably even like growers, right? So I think all of us have to look out on our own. Ramon, you're choosing a different pathway. The roof fall down. I think all of us have to think about what's next for us, learn every day of our lives. Sorry, got very philosophical, but I think there's a lot of anger, and that's what the current administration is trying to cater to. Rather.
Oh, okay. I thought you was going to say camp down. I was like, oh, no.
By the way, let's say hello to our buddy Pierre. And Pierre says, I don't think the
Hey, Pierre.
tariff will be as helpful as Trump and his advocates think it will. Some think Tesla will benefit. I wonder why they think that. But it has a huge branding problem that will negate any benefit. That's an interesting comment. I mean,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just don't want to. I don't want to overstep my feelings, because I do kind of agree with Ramon in that I have no idea how this is going to play out.
Ramon's
I just, I really don't know how this is going to play out. None of us really.
Nobody knows.
Right? And it could. I don't see how at this right now.
Well, if you look at history, the history is not on the side of tariffs working and not causing consumers to pay tons more. That history is there. But
Brent,
what's that?
Why do you think President Trump, again, this is good because I think we can take politics out of it in this case alone. Just if anybody knows, I don't know the history, but why do you think he's fixated on that? He's surrounded by smart people, economists, who I assume want best for the country in some way, notwithstanding taxes high, taxes low, defund libraries. That's more of a social issue. But on the tariff part, I'm assuming they want the bet to go right. I don't think there's some nefarious, let's destroy America. Anybody know why they think this may work?
Yeah, I have a theory on that one.
Okay.
He is a guy who's used to basically being the master of his own domain. Like he's owned his own business. Well, he inherited from his dad, but he's had his own business, and it had lots of money backing it. And he worked in order to build a lot of those buildings or the casinos and stuff like that. He dealt with a lot of small folks, and he was able to basically use his leverage. He talks about leverage a lot. Leverage to beat down the small guys that are building all this stuff for him, because he's got leverage over them, and they usually will capitulate. And I think he looks at the U.S. having the number one economy,
right.
Having leverage
over
everybody else because we've got the number one economy. So he thinks that just by putting, I'm just putting it out there, my thought. He thinks we can tear people to death because they'll never be able to match our tariffs. But what I think he's not paying, well, I'm not saying he's not paying attention. I think he's devaluing the fact that at some point the world economies, friends and adversaries alike, are going to be like, look, we can't take this from any one country. We should get together and say, we'll start, fighting his tariffs in a group. And so all that does is escalate and get it into a trade and tariff war, which nobody wins,
right?
Particularly the consumer. So history is not on the side of this working. Let's put it like that. At least that's the way I view it.
Got it. Shout out to Ramon Darling. Ramon Darling, good to have you here, man. We got a lot of history together, years and years and years. Ramon Darling is a smart human being, and just a great human. So
Taiwan Semiconductor. There's so much going on. I think everybody, like Shashi is saying, this chips thing is such a high stake play. I mean, you would think food would be a higher play, but chips, because everybody wants to own leadership position in anything AI, going right down to the chip level. And so remember when there was this big announcement, I think it was last year, the government is going to give Intel $8 billion to start building AI chips. Apparently that was just a big ruse, and Intel did not have the infrastructure in place to create those kind of chips. Everybody thought it was easy to go from CPU to GPU, and if it was that easy, NVIDIA wouldn't be sitting where they are today, but they are. And so everybody is now trying to grab that leadership position. Taiwan Semiconductor was the ones behind a lot of these AI chips and GPU chips that NVIDIA is producing. So now everybody's trying to figure out, how do we become the next Taiwan Semiconductor? Because as Shashi said, Taiwan is sitting right there off the coast of China. And the way things are looking, it's very easy to see China taking over Taiwan. And if they do that, guess what they take over? All that chip creation. So it's a high stakes thing. And I think we all should be paying attention to it. Maybe not to the extent of, overlooking some of the other stuff, but I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't think this tariff thing is a good thing because I don't see how that impacts what happens with all this manufacturing of chips. It's to be determined.
Can I add something about like Ramon? I also wondered about, hey, isn't there somebody advising or some economist who's much more smarter than most people here advising? So here's what I've seen in my career in corporations, especially when it's taken over by a PE firm or a VC firm, right? A team of people come in, their only job is to achieve something very fast. And when they do that, they don't take counsel from experienced people. They just come in with their own people and start cutting. A lot of times the customers will get affected. I mean, and there's nothing, I've gone through like 7 of these, right? The customers will get affected, but they don't care because they say like, we are going to achieve profitability. We are going to do it at a much smaller, with some lesser people. And we are going to provide more services to customers. That last part doesn't always happen. Now, between these two administrations, right? The first administration came in with a lot of experts, but didn't achieve whatever they could because obviously the experts were giving their opinion, right? Now I see this as almost very similar to a corporation taking over, saying like their goals are kind of things that most of us would agree, like, hey, we want to reduce the 36 trillion in debt to something less and everything else. But the way they're doing it, they have to realize it's not a corporation. These are real people, right? It's not like you're treating the whole population of the US as your employees. They all have different lives, different rights, and everything else. So that's where I think we have to give it some time. At the expense of this, it's very difficult for all of us to go through this pain. And we don't know what the outcome is. There's nothing that tells us it's going to be a positive outcome.
And I just don't like everybody's somewhat boycotting American products. I mean, so there's other parts to this that are downstream impacts that are not, it's not just the tariffs, you know. They're making American products sort of like the enemy, and people are starting to, like, you know, forget that. We're not buying that stuff if it's American. And I just can't believe that that's where we are right now. It's like crazy.
It's like, you know, when the big bully, you know, starts pushing you around, the little folks say, you know, let's band together and fight. That's all retaliatory. They're not. Think about how this is all getting started. It was not them that started the tariff war, but they're retaliating the only way they can.
That's right. And I agree with that. I heard an interview yesterday on CNN from some guy from Europe, Denmark, France, don't matter, one of those countries where they have an accent. And the guy said something like, we are not targeting the American people. We love America. However, we did not start the war. President Trump started against us, so we are banding together to do what we can to push back. But we love America. We love America. But, however, we're taking all of your wine, all of your chips, all of your Doritos, all of your Coca-Cola. We will not buy it as long as that. That's what happened.
Was that a French accent?
I don't know what it was. It was African, French, German, Canadian.
But y'all got the point. That's just what Zaman said.
But yeah, that's concerning to me.
But because she asked him, John, she asked him that same question, I think that Branner, you brought up. She said, but you know you're targeting, she said, you know, like, she mentioned the companies, Coca-Cola, it's not their fault. But his answer was kind of like what we're hinting. We can't, what are we going to do? We can't do anything else. All we can do is and he admitted even, he said our little boycott, most boycotts don't even work. It doesn't make a dent, you know, at the highest level. It's more of an emotional. So he said, we're just boycotting Coca-Cola. That's the only way we can fight back. A symbolism, taking it off the shelf, and we'll get Denmark soda, which probably sucks, you know?
By the way, Amber is here for the accent program.
Thank you, Amber. Come on now. Thank you, Amber.
That was very entertaining, I thought. All right, man. Since we're still talking about AI, by the way, Shashi, that was today talking about AI is what yesterday. Shashi might be referring to yesterday on another show I do, CRM Players with my venerable Paul Greenberg. We needed an AI detox day, so we didn't let anybody talk about AI for the whole 60 minutes, but somebody still snuck it in.
Hey, Brent, sorry, Brent. So Brent, this is not the only show you do live. You do something with John Lawson where you school him at 5. You have CRM Players where you do it with the top CRM experts. You do this show as well. I thought like it was just us you rocking with. You do a lot of other different things.
So what Ramona's saying, I talk a lot, basically, but I also listen a lot, so that's a good thing too. So
You good people, man. You
listen to all this stuff. All right, so we've been talking about AI, and once again,
Brent, I want to say one small thing.
Sure.
Like Ramon, you said a couple of brand names, right? Now it's so difficult for us to figure out which company is American, right? Anheuser-Busch, not American. It's a Belgian subsidiary now. I was thinking, like, I went to the local store and I wanted to get Molson in support of Canada. Molson is a subsidiary of an American company.
Wow. I mean, this world is so small. They're all global conglomerates, and it crossed over. I mean, what was it about when cars that at least if the car manufacturer is owned in the U.S., but it crosses country lines like 7 times in order for it to get created? I mean, so how much of it is American and how much is it not? Or is it just the fact that the company is headquartered in America and the profits come back to America? That's what makes it American? Who knows? I don't know.
So Z-Man not drinking Budweiser may actually be Europe.
Is that your attempted an accent there?
Yeah, that was his French accent. Leland, you want to try?
By the way, yes, what's really American? Absolutely. And Amber, thank you for letting me. Just remember, I'll be schooling your boy later at 5, so just keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the AI stuff. Maybe not as glowingly as before. So let me pull this up. My buddy Ron Miller, who used to be the enterprise tech reporter over at TechCrunch, now he's got his own thing and he's got his own newsletter and all that kind of stuff. And he was working with a new, I don't know if they're new, but a seed investor that focuses on enterprise app tech startups. So he put this in his latest newsletter, which everybody, we just talked about. Leland put the list of all the announcements. They were all basically the top 5 are all the AI stuff. I go to a lot of conferences. Y'all go to a lot of conferences. Everybody's talking about agentic AI. Last year was all about generative AI, but it's AI all the time. Except it doesn't seem to be paying off yet. So, as Ron points out, now Accenture, this is more skewed towards the bigger enterprises, but Accenture found 13% of companies had reported seeing any kind of enterprise value from these AI projects. And I agree with Ron when he says those are dismal numbers. Now, all this AI stuff, do we need to do small businesses? Are they getting caught up in the hype? Do the small businesses need a bit of an AI detox just to pull back from all this nonsense? Because there's a lot of nonsense out there.
Brent?
Pull back and then reevaluate and then go forward? Or are you seeing them just getting caught up in all the hype?
Brent, for the small business owners, again, I don't know them all. None of us do, but that's our space. Many of us here. I think it's a real thing, brother. I would love to know. Thank you, Amber. I love Ramon's contribution to the show. Thank you, Amber. But is that for the large companies, Brent? I'd love to hear what you think. I don't know about that, but I could believe maybe they're not getting as much out of it as we think. But for the smaller companies, Brent, for sure. When I think of myself, man, you're that $2 million, $3 million, $5 million. You're that solo entrepreneur being able to dump a 50-page spreadsheet, 5,000 rows of numbers, all the data, just that thing. Train your EA who can do 5 times more work than he ever could. I do think those things are game changer. Now, most are probably not even using it, right? Most of the average small business sit there. But those of us who are in my little bubble, as you remind me I am in, which is true, but that is game changer. Now, what Delta, United, Clorox, Coca-Cola, how they're getting out of it, it probably is less. But for the tiny folks, that's game changing.
Did you say Coca-Cola in that French accent? I just want to make sure I want to hear that.
Coca-Cola.
There it is. I like that. All right, before I let the bold one jump in, he posted something on Facebook that I thought was really interesting. OpenAI says our GPUs are melting as it limits ChatGPT image generation. People are going crazy generating images. They're posting all sorts of like purple cows and I don't know, green kumquats. I don't know what they're doing. But there's a lot of people using this. There's a lot of small business doing just that, creating weird images. Right. But is that hitting the mark when it comes to AI actually helping them do anything towards the top or bottom line? Are they buying into the hype too much to do nice images and not seeing anything really impact them on the bottom or top line? You posted this. I know you talked to a lot of these folks. Are you seeing people really getting the top or bottom line impact, positive impact, or are they getting caught up in doing all these things because they can do it, but it doesn't really lead to anything?
2025 is the year of small business adoption with AI, and we're seeing so many. I'm finally feeling like we're in that future, because it's getting usable by everyday people. The reason why that story is really important is because literally yesterday, I'm inside of ChatGPT. I'm able to make logos that look perfect. Mm-hmm. Something I would have had to outsource. I don't have to outsource. I'm telling you, this is coming. And
how long did it take you to make it, just out of curiosity?
One line of code, not code.
Now, how long did it take you to do it?
One time, one shot.
I'm not saying one. I know it was one line, but how long did it actually take you to get that perfect one line together in order to get the image you like?
2 minutes.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you really 2 minutes?
2 minutes. I mean, I posted out there, a logo that I was playing with, and literally it was one line, one shot. I didn't have to redo it 5-6 times. It came out with perfect text. I'm telling you this.
Now, how much would you have paid for before you were able to do that? How much were you typically paying?
Like $50 to $100.
Yep.
So in this instance, you're saying that basically you were able to save yourself about $50 to $100 on that logo.
Yep.
All right. Now, how often do you need to create logos?
For every product that you might make. But it's not just logos. I'm talking, you can do, anything that's image and needs an image, whether that is, infographics, whether that's, your logo stuff, your products, changing clothes on a model, have a model hold your product. All of that is now doable. It's game over.
So follow me. I think that's great. And Amber does too. Amber thinks it's great. She's telling me these AI apps are amazing. And I'm betting that she's learning that from you. See, I'm nice. I am giving you that.
No, Brent, can we just take a moment, Brent? That was very nice what you said about John, Brent. This is healing. This is great. Good job. This is good, Brent. This is a moment.
Oh my God.
It's a moment.
It will not last.
We're glad that you're all here for that moment. All right. So follow me here. I think all what you said is great. And it allows people to save some money with a little bit of effort and time. That's great. But how many of those things that they do like that, even though you might save a little bit of time and a little bit of money, it's not really core to what their business is. It's not really applying directly to what they make their money at. It's saving them a little time and a little money. And it feels like everybody's kind of going in that direction, which is good to a certain extent, but it doesn't really allow them to get even more involved in their core business, which is where they make the money. At least not yet. It feels like right now, at least right now, everybody's fascinated with being able to do these little things that save them a little money, a little and cost them a little effort, but it doesn't really move their business forward. When is that going to happen? When are we going to see folks use AI to actually move their business forward, not just do little things that save them some money?
I think more than anything, it's just about educating and putting the right tools in their hand. They just right now don't know what button to push and how to use it strategically. So the ability and the capabilities here, it's just going to take a little bit of time for them to understand. And I always tell business owners, it's like, 80% of your time needs to be spent on revenue generating opportunities. The problem is 80% of your time is being spent on mundane, stupid tasks that they have to do every day, like answering emails, coming up with content. All of that stuff is now, if we take that off the table, then you can deal with the money generating stuff. And that's really what it is. It's about getting their time back from the mundane and applying it to the actual thing that makes their business money and keeps it growing.
Hey, Brent, let me jump in on one thing. Thank you, John. Let me jump in on one thing as well there, Brent. I do think, taking an example of a mutual friend that John and I know, Jennifer Jasper, it's an example. John's case, metaphorically, or Shashi's case, he needs a logo once a year. So I got what you're saying, Brent. Shashi saved $50 a year. Ain't much. Take our mutual friend, Jennifer Jasper. She has a t-shirt business. Imagine her 5 years ago, X years ago, paying freelancers, others, redo it. That could be 20, 30% of her time, whatever. But a t-shirt business, she can now, or her team can go, metaphorically, boop, and save 2 hours a day or more, because that is core to her business. Me as a content producer, as a publisher, I have no shame. I'm using AI in a smart way, still with my brains in it, much more than ever, core part of my business. Think of an accountant. All the numbers, and they're crunching their clients' things in a good way. So I know you know what I mean, Brent. I'm just saying, for me, I do think it's still in a bubble, but for the right small business that's leveraging and enhancing it, yeah, I do think it's, going back to John, it's saving time, productivity. For the right business that's leveraging it, I do think we're in game changer mode, and it will just increase. It's like the first few of us who had smartphones. It moved from cool to still being in a bubble. It saved time for all of us who had it, and then everybody else got it, and now we're all the same productivity with cell phone. That's why I see it.
Leland?
You go ahead, Leland.
Well, like what they were saying, it's all about the tools. So take, for instance, any kind of person who's like a plumber, electrician, accountant, and they can all use this same tool. Someone that handles the scheduling, an AI that handles the scheduling. Right now, you have a person that is handling the scheduling, and that's only available from 9 to 5, and she's out during lunch. But if you have an AI, then they're able to take in schedules at any point. They're able to look at the calendar. They're able to interact on a meaningful level, and it's scalable. So it doesn't matter if you have just one electrician or if you have 50 electricians. It's going to be able to handle all of their schedules and be able to schedule everything out quickly with just one tool versus one person. And then maybe if you scale up to 10 electricians, you need 2 people to handle all of the scheduling, and then you need more and more people. That to me is, and it's all about the tools. And so you got to find where your hang up is and then find the tool to be able to handle that hang up.
So let me have the last word here.
Go for it.
I think the Accenture stat is not applicable here because there are 2 different things. Small businesses are not going to the bank, withdrawing money and saying, here's $5,000, I need AI, right? But the large companies kind of did that. Like, they didn't know where they were going. The board pressure said introduce AI, so they had a lot of money, and now they're saying, oh my God, it's a failure. I think the small business part of it is like, which company is going to help me answer the phone and answer like simple questions like, hey, directions to the restaurant, or I want to place an order, or some of the things that examples that we mentioned. So they're not spending money till they see an ROI. and they have started seeing ROI, and some of the examples even from the audience, right? They've started seeing ROI. Oh my God, I can now talk to my customers because I don't have to wrangle this spreadsheet and place an order for supplies. I can create it almost automatically. So the budget that, in fact, that adoption will, in my opinion, will keep increasing because they are hungry for things that will make them more efficient. But they're not thinking of it as AI. They're just thinking of it, hey, here's another tool for scheduling. I think some of the small businesses are far ahead of companies in using new scheduling tools too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Wait a minute, Shashi had the last word.
No, I'm just agreeing. I think that's a good point.
No, and I have to leave to another meeting. It was great seeing all of you and the
Thank you,
audience.
Shashi.
folks.
Thanks, Shashi.
Thank you. Good to see you here.
Shashi with the mic drop moment in the absence of Madam Mic Drop not being with us. All right, that's great. So yeah, we're at the top of the hour. This has been great. I still feel a little bit skeptical. I think you guys and Ramon Darling and Amber Donald, you guys have put it some real, and of course our boy Ashibu is now here, and
what's up,
and
Ashibu?
Pierre. We've got a lot of great comments and a lot of great thoughts on that particular thing. I'll just say this: I'm going to post.
We're going to pick this up later too.
We may, we'll see. But Amber said something about prompting. I was trying to find it, but it's kind of lost. I should have marked it when I had a chance. I don't think every small business person should be an expert prompter. I don't think that's not what they're going to make money at. There are people who do that, and there are people who will be expert prompts, and they'll help you. But I don't know if you want to spend a lot of time being a prompt engineer if you're a plumber or if you are something, because you make your money off of certain things. I don't think being a prompt engineer is the way you want to spend your time, over too much time, generally speaking. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, but Brent, if you want to stop the show, no problem. We can do it next time. Shoot.
Go ahead. You got a quick one?
Yeah, I just think I found her quote here. Sounds like they must learn how to prompt to get results from what they already had. So I get what you mean, prompt engineering, no. But I do say in this stage, that real estate agent that got 50,000 documents, her learning how to do a nice substantive prompt, put those 50,000 PDFs in there, that could be powerful from her compared to 15, 20 years ago. So not prompt engineering, but in this day and age today, which I'm sure will get better a year from now, knowing some good prompts. Woo.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a certain level you probably want to go to and stay away from getting too deep, because I think if you get too deep, you start to go away from what your core business is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Anyway, final thoughts, Mr. Lawson.
So I would just dovetail on this, guys. Stop prompting, start talking. Start talking to your AI as if it were your assistant sitting right next to you. Talk to it exactly like you would a human. I don't like that. Why don't you change it? That it's not the right way. I'd rather it go this way. Just do that, and you'll get the output you need.
Well, you'll get close. You get like 80-85% of the way. Then you might need to tweak it a little bit, because I actually did one of those kind of exercises where I literally used AI. I had a conversation with the AI tool to create my own agent, and it was a really interesting. You couldn't have done that 6 months ago. I wouldn't even thought about that.
So what Sashi's saying is that these guys spent money, a year ago, and they're not seeing results because of what was out a year ago. Obviously, compared to what we got today, is a whole other place. Yeah.
I agree with you. I tried to start a ZDNet column 10 years ago because I got my first Alexa device, and it was this is 2014, so it was a little longer than that, and it couldn't do a whole lot, but you could see the potential by just talking to it. It took 10 years to get where we are now. I hope it won't take another 10 years to get to where we really want to be, which is the promised land with that. And by the way, I'm not putting in any more positive John comments from Ashibu or Amber for the rest of the show. All right. Ramon, final thought.
Listen, it's just great to be here with you guys. Great to hang out. Great to have some fun. Share what we can. And thank you all for joining. And again, my biggest shout out of the day, because I love Ramon Darling so much. Just what a beautiful, good human. So Ramon Darling, you made my day seeing your name light up in the feed here. Beautiful Ramon Darling.
Nice. Very positive. Very
wow.
Feeling the love. Feeling the love. Leland, final thought.
Final thoughts. Big corporations are huge, they're bulky, and so when new technology comes in, it's kind of hard for them to adapt. When you're a small business, you're smaller, you're nimbler, and you have the ability to be able to take in this AI technology, find out what works for you, and apply it far more easier than a big company that would be spending millions of dollars to be able to try to integrate it. So use that to your advantage and find what works for you, apply it, and hopefully it'll save you money, time. If it doesn't, trash it, move on to the next thing.
Mm.
Wise words from all the gentlemen here. I have to say, I'm shocked. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, we hope that you enjoyed it, and thanks to everybody who participated. Man, Ashibu, Amber, Pierre, Ramon. I know I'm missing some folks from earlier in the conversation, but you guys added a lot to this whole thing.
Yes.
So thank you. Hopefully, we'll see you next Friday. Until then, have a great weekend, and we shall talk to you next week.